I'm going to hit you with a bit of a, I don't want, I want to say conspiracy theory, but that's not the right word. I'm going to hit you with a hard to swallow pill. There are going to be a couple of hard to swallow pills in this hand that I might have just accidentally crushed with that whole thing there. And you're going to have to deal with them. All right. Here's the deal. I just read an article. It's on Marca, the Spanish news site, about how Vinicius Jr. is still in the sights of Saudi Arabia. Right? They obviously, when they burst onto the scene, were looking at trying to flip the biggest players in the world. Of course, Mbappe was on the table, right? But Vinicius Jr. is obviously, one of the best players in the world right now. He is certainly one of the biggest star forces in the global game right now. And of course, Saudi Arabia wants to add him to their portfolio of nice, shiny things that they're just putting together, right? This kind of moneyed class in Saudi Arabia that just likes to collect shiny, nice things. And Vinicius Jr. would be a very shiny, very nice thing. But there is a part of this that makes me step back and want to actually think about this seriously for a second. Because there are a couple camps here. One camp, people just assume this is never going to happen. And it probably won't. Okay, but that's not the camp that I'm talking about. I'm talking about Real Madrid's perspective. Because in this article, it is referred to that Real Madrid is unbothered by this interest. They're planning on offering a contract renewal to Vinicius Jr. They're going to make sure they keep him on the team. They're not worried about the interest from Saudi Arabia. I think they should be, but not for the reason that you'd think. The idea that Real Madrid are calm and waiting for the moment to shape the future. They talk about multiple meetings between Vinicius and the representatives of Real Madrid, maybe working on whatever the structure of a new contract is. Now they're going to listen to his demands and this and that. I think Real Madrid should be worried about whether Vinicius is interested in Saudi Arabia. Do you know what Vinicius Jr.'s release clause is in his contract? According to Spanish law, everybody has to have a release clause in their professional contracts, not just footballers, everybody. Which is why, if you're ever playing Football Manager in Spain, you have to have a release clause in your players' contracts. It's also, why Neymar's release clause was $230 million, and it took somebody batshit crazy enough to come in and pay that. And that was PSG at the time. If that was a paradigm-shifting transfer, right? But Neymar's release clause was so comically high, nobody thought anybody would ever pay it. Yes, it means that Lionel Messi had a release clause his entire career. Lamine Yamal's and the Pedris and Gavis and those types of guys, the release clause is $500-600 million. I think Lamine Yamal's might be even bigger than that. Whenever they get his new contract sorted out or what phase of contract stuff he's in. Vinicius Jr.'s release clause, $1 billion. It's 1 billion with a B. That is a word that is just not thrown around in the transfer market ever, unless you're talking about the sum total of Chelsea's spending. Nobody talks about transfers in the realm of $1 billion. Saudi Arabia has that kind of money. They can piss that kind of money away and they won't even blink. They have that kind of money. The only question is whether Vinicius Jr. would want to do it. And I think if you are Real Madrid, you should want him to go. Because the honest truth is, no player, given the current financial situation of the game and the average price of a player, is worth $1 billion. No player. Lionel Messi in his prime, you'd take the billion. Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo together in their prime, you'd take the billion. Vinicius Jr.? Again, earlier in this video, I said he's one of the best players in the world. He is. He's one of the biggest stars in world football. He's not worth anywhere near $1 billion. If they pick up the phone, if Saudi Arabia is actually serious, and I would not be surprised at all if they were, right? Because that's what it would take to get Vinicius out of Real Madrid. If they pick up the phone and go, we have $1 billion, we will sign the paperwork, we will send it to you, take it. I mean, it's a delicate situation because it all depends on Vinicius going. And that's why I said Real Madrid should be concerned. They should be concerned about whether Vinicius is interested in Saudi Arabia. Because $1 billion is $1 billion. You want to talk about, juice in the financial system. Do you know how much you'd be able to afford to spend? Well, $1 billion. Because you'd have $1 billion coming in. And even with the upcharge, the clubs would be willing to charge you because they know you just got $1 billion because you just shattered every transfer record out there. If you find ways to spend that money that isn't the way that Barcelona spent the Neymar money, which is just a couple of massive, explosive splash transfers, but spend that $1 billion in a more intelligent way on a collection of young players, on, massive facility improvements that now fit within your budget restrictions, on this and that's just going to allow you to build a spaceship of a team that can carry on for like a generation of player acquisition, then that $1 billion would make Real Madrid an untouchable force in world football for the foreseeable future. The only reason Real Madrid wouldn't do it is because of ego. Right? One, Vinicius loves playing for Real Madrid. He is a talisman for Real Madrid, and he wants to go down as a Real Madrid legend. I'm making assumptions, but I'm parroting the normal talking points of guys that play for Real Madrid. And guys that, Vinicius has been there since he was 18 years old, right? He's coming into his prime, and the world's his oyster. Now, the world's everybody's oyster until somebody in Saudi Arabia promises you $400 million. All right, that's like more than twice the GDP of a small Pacific Island nation. Okay, it is a ridiculous, life-changing amount of money. Just ask Ronaldo, just ask Neymar. Right? You think those guys were making a lot of money before? They have, legitimate fuck you, build me an amusement park in my backyard. I'm going to take care of my entire home city type money. And I don't know if Vinicius is interested in that. Maybe he is. Kylian Mbappe turned it down in order to go to Real Madrid and chase that dream. Vinicius has already been there for a while, right? And maybe the promise is that he can go there a couple of years and then come back. That is certainly what a couple of different people that have gone to Saudi Arabia seem to be into. Jordan Henderson didn't even wait to get paid before he came back. He didn't even get any money. He just came right back because he was like, sand hot, no beach. All right. That's my Jordan Henderson impression. But if we're being completely honest with ourselves, if you have Saudi Arabia picking up the phone, telling you they want to spend $1 billion to bring in your player, you should take it. Right? Saudi Arabia is not beholden to any FFP at all. Any money you get from Saudi Arabia is just a free injection of capital. It's not a trade of, FFP space. Like if there's a transfer between Bayern Munich and Tottenham, as there was with Harry Kane, right? That is a transfer of FFP space. If you want to look at it that way, sure, the money's leaving, but if you economically look at it, this is Bayern Munich is willing to sacrifice this amount of space in FFP and give that space in FFP to Tottenham in exchange for Harry Kane. Saudi Arabia is not in, they don't give a shit. They can give you as much money as they want. They have an unlimited amount of money. They can roll up and hand over $1 billion and bring in Vinicius, and everybody will be talking about it. And Real Madrid will be sitting on a mountain of $1 billion. After tax or whatever fees have to go out to other teams, you're still sitting on a ridiculous amount of money. Jude Bellingham cost $100 million. With Real Madrid and Florentino Perez's ability to navigate the transfer market, that $1 billion will go further than you could possibly imagine. They'd be untouchable. They'd be able to sign an entire new starting 11 with that amount of money. They'd be able to corner the market on great young talents across the world. They'd be able to do what Chelsea was trying to do, but with an unlimited amount of money. Chelsea signed a bunch of young players to really long contracts and just they're going to see which ones develop and turn into great players. Real Madrid could do that times $1 billion, right? Because they have a ton of money they're able to spend to begin with because they're Real Madrid, literally plus $1 billion. I'm just saying. I don't know why, the articles and the people looking at this aren't going, Real Madrid should take this. Because I can't think of one reason outside of ego or Vinicius Jr. just not wanting to go that Real Madrid shouldn't be excited about this prospect. But of course, even if they are, they can't broadcast it publicly. Florentino Perez is too smart for that. because then you're going to piss off Vinicius and make it feel like you're trying to force him out of the club. So it is possible the people within Real Madrid are already keeping tabs on this situation to potentially cash in a huge amount of money. Even if it's going towards the end of the contract and it's not the full billion, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. A gross overvaluation of Vinicius Jr. on the transfer market that Real Madrid would be injecting in, or Real Madrid would be getting injected into it by Saudi Arabia. And I'm just saying it could be happening behind the scenes where they're doing different things and the negotiation's going very hard, and maybe there's a little bit of collaboration going on between Real Madrid and Saudi Arabia if this was actually going to happen, saying, hey, look, on the low, we kind of want this to happen too. We'd love to have that amount of money. Here's what Vinicius is asking for, so you can beat it. Like, here's what you should offer Vinicius. That kind of back channeling. I mean, these sorts of deals, there are so many different factors and so many different, parties attending to contract negotiations around a player like Vinicius Jr. at a club like Real Madrid. But now that you have Saudi Arabia lurking around saying that they have a renewed push to try and get Vinicius Jr., I wouldn't be surprised at all if Florentino was working the back channels to try and make this sale happen because, and I'm going to end on the note that I keep repeating, you're insane if you don't take $1 billion for any player on the planet, especially in the era of FFP. Because the things you can do with that, I mean, you'd be looking at Barcelona. They can't even register all their players without a judge issuing like a stay on a ruling. And then you would have Real Madrid richer than Croesus, sitting on a pile of gold with Florentino Perez smoking a stogie on the top of it, signing whatever player he wishes. Honestly, I hope it doesn't happen. But if you're Real Madrid, you should want it to happen. You should.